Imagine my painfully shy and introverted 14-year-old daughter, Meg, the one who's always behind the scenes, singing a solo in front of hundreds of people at the spring chorus concert. Her sweet voice rose strong and clear as she sang, "I am beautiful in every single way." My heart seized. Beauty, courage, and determination are not just themes of this Christina Aguilera song. They were Meg. Proud tears blurred my vision. My daughter was transforming right in front of me. She was luminous and confident. She was beautiful. It's easy to see beauty where I live, so I thought. I live in a lovely hamlet on the coast of Maine where the natural beauty is something to behold and appreciate. There's some treasures here, though, that I had never really noticed. Luckily, my daughter's triumph altered my perspective. My unfocused lens on beauty was about to be adjusted. A few days later, I ran into JP, the guy who cleans the halls at work. He excitedly told me about his upcoming events at the Special Olympics. I'm going to do the softball toss and the 100-meter walk. Events I've almost gone to for so many years. I've always said, "I'm thrilled, JP. I should go someday." Words, void of action. This time was different. There was a gravitational pull. JP was putting himself out there for the world to see. It was time to break out of my comfort zone. It was time to be better, stronger, braver. It was time to be more like my beautiful daughter, Meg. "It will make your day and theirs," the email invitation read. This year I was going. Special Olympics? Here I come. I had no idea what I was walking into. The athlete's hard work and preparation humbled me. Imagine training for a year to walk 100 meters. As an athlete myself, I focused on the finish line. Isn't that the prize? I neglected to see the humanity and bravery stepping up to the blocks. Before the starting line and after the finish line are strong and kind people doing extraordinary things. I had to see these athletes. I wanted to do something meaningful, something beautiful. How have I been so blind? For years, my wife Ellen has volunteered to raise funds for the special needs clients across the street. I only seem to pay attention to Louie and his friends when they not so discreetly threw treats to my dog from afar. My dog was getting fat. Ellen just laughed because she saw the joy it gave them. Besides, the dog didn't seem to mind. Ellen often went to the Special Olympics to see Louie, Scott, Melvin, and others. She knew more than their names. She knew their stories and shared in their lives. I wanted to be more like my wife, more open, more kind, more giving. I wanted to be beautiful, like her. As I approached the venue, there were tents as far as the eyes could see. State troopers handing out ribbons and medals. Contagious excitement, not just for the athletes, but for the supporters, spectators, and volunteers. I saw JP, Louie, Scott, and Melvin showing off their awards. I saw my fat and happy dog garner more attention than a streaker at the Super Bowl. What I saw was unconditional joy, love, and happiness exuding from people whose actions screamed, "I am determined, I am brave. I am beautiful." The deafening applause was just as loud for the last place athlete as for the first. On this day, everyone won, including me. There's an oath that opens every Special Olympics. Let me win. But if I cannot win, let me be brave in the attempt. This is what I was reacting to. In the moment where courage and determination push us forward to be better than we were before, this is where true beauty thrives. These seemingly unrelated acts together became the missing puzzle pieces that spurred my actions. What started as a small white snowball with my daughter turned into an avalanche of bursting true colors that transformed me and opened my eyes. What I once looked through, I now look to for inspiration. I broke out of my comfort zone to ironically find comfort and motivation to be better, stronger, braver. I'm now a proud member of the Disability Support Group at work and a committed Special Olympics volunteer. More importantly, I found some new friends. True beauty was in front of me the whole time. Are your eyes closed to the potential beauty that may be right in front of you? Make a difference in your life and the lives of others by befriending someone who thrives beyond the start and finish line. The final catalyst for me happened the next day at work when JP exploded through the door. Look at my medal! JP, I see more than your medal now. You're beautiful. Today we're going to talk about public speaking and leadership success. I received this article the other day when they heard I was coming to speak to you. It's from Martha Stewart's Living. I'll just hit the high points. The news flash. According to a poll of Martha Stewart Living readers, 90% say that fear has held them back from accomplishing a goal. A few years ago, I wouldn't have been able to do what I just did. That's coming from a communication major and a veteran of the corporate world of 22 years. Up until a few years ago, I was inconsistent with my professional performance, often cynical, definitely defensive. I've been demoted twice in my career and told I would never reach senior management because they never saw me in the role. Yet I can stand in front of you today and tell you I've never been happier or more satisfied personally or professionally than I am right now. In the midst of a downturned economy, I've thrived. I've had more raises, promotions, and increases in job responsibilities than I could have ever imagined. I'm doing things I never dreamed of. I've written 2 books. I'm part of the National Speakers Association. I am the official announcer at the U.S. National Toboggan Championship. All names are inappropriate. Why am I telling you this? Because it took me years to figure out, but I finally got it. I had to break out of my own painfully shy and introverted shell and learn how to communicate effectively if I wanted to succeed. Specifically, I needed to learn how to communicate in public. How would you define public speaking, anyone?
Speaking in front of a group.
Speaking in front of a group, that's the typical definition.
Sharing your story.
Sharing your story, your message. What I want you to walk away with from today. Effective public speaking is more about confidence than it is about communication skills. Public speaking is more than a lectern, a microphone, a podium, a stage. Public speaking is everywhere. Learning how to publicly speak is not as hard as you think. The hardest part is taking that first action step. Public speaking is a learned skill that needs to be refined and honed on a regular basis. And finally, your own success, your own leadership success is directly correlated to your ability to communicate effectively. Whether that communication effectiveness is real or perceived. So, have you ever found yourself talking on and on and on and on and on, and your message just never catches with the audience? Or you've heard a speaker go on and on and on, and you become distracted and you don't hear a thing they're saying and you're not paying attention? I hope I'm not losing it yet. Part of being able to communicate effectively is being able to be succinct, clear, and concise. I want to share a story with you. My wife has a 9-year-old niece who got in trouble at school. She was overheard telling another student that she's not popular and nobody likes her. The teacher said, "I need you to write a letter of apology." The letter came in the next day, and it said, "I'm sorry. You're not popular and nobody likes you." Years before, a few years ago, that would have taken me 15 minutes to tell you the story. Years ago, I would have been distracted by that.
By what?
Exactly. But your ability to be clear and concise is important to sending your messages. And I've had to learn how to do that. And if you don't believe me, let me share with you some quotes from my performance appraisals from my first 20 years on the job. Tom needs to be more concise in his communication style and ensure he adapts to the audience based on who he's interacting with. He needs to position his ideas with the audience in mind. He needs to ask more questions for a full understanding. He needs to be more confident in his presentations to senior management. He needs to stop second-guessing himself. He needs to avoid shutting down when others don't agree with him, and on and on. It took 20 years for me to get the following comment. Tom's organization and communication skills are his key strengths. Can't imagine why I was never promoted on my own timelines. I thought I knew how to communicate. I was a communication major. No. When I first started, I was painfully shy and introverted. When I communicated, I didn't get to know the audience. I just threw everything out there and hoped no one responded. Face to face, whether it was my manager, my manager's manager, colleagues, peers, people on the street, it didn't matter. I didn't adapt my communication style. I didn't know who the audience was. Face to face, I had some issues. What was interesting, though, is when I was on the phones, I was good. I knew how to communicate with my customers because I didn't have to see them. I came to a realization I had communication skills. I lacked confidence. But communication is everywhere. It's not just standing in front of a group of people like this. It happens every single day. What if you're trying to make a sale at work? What if you're trying to talk to your kids? What if you're trying to coach a little league team or soccer? Your ability to send a confident message, a clear message, is critical. Your credibility is at stake if you can't do that. A lot of credibility is taken away with your inability to speak clearly, or you fill your communication with filler words. What are some examples of filler words that are out there?
No.
You know.
Having said that.
Having said that.
Like.
And two of my recent favorites. Right? You know what I'm talking about, right? Right?
Okay.
Really? Really? Did you hear what they just said? Really? I'm not sure if you remember, but in 2008, Caroline Kennedy ran for the U.S. Senate. Caroline Kennedy had her first television interview. It was 30 minutes long, and within those 30 minutes, she had well over 100 ya-nos. Her credibility was shot. Is it a coincidence that she dropped out of the race less than 2 weeks later? Will people pay attention to your message if it's jumbled and you're allowing your emotions to catch up with you and you're not sure about your own confidence and you're just letting it go on and you're rambling? Your ability to send a very clear message is very important. But if I was to ask for a raise of hands on how many people, to some varying level of degree, is afraid of public speaking, raise your hand.
Raise them high.
The others have somewhat of a little. But if I was to say, is anyone afraid of success, raise your hand. No hands are going up. Because oftentimes there's a misalignment between our belief systems and what we really want to accomplish. 90% of the people are letting goals slip by because of some type of fear. Have you ever stopped to think about the correlation between your ability to be heard, to be understood, to be confident in your presentation and communication with your own leadership success? How can I improve my communication overnight? Is there an app for that? The answer is yes, there are. However, the true application is human application. I made the decision 3 years ago to join Toastmasters. Changed my life and career. Toastmasters opened up my ability to join the National Speakers Association, to start writing those books, to do things I never dreamed of. It opened up new doors for me. I'm not saying everybody has to join Toastmasters. What I'm saying is take the actions to do something to improve yourself. As a communication major, I learned a lot about communication in those 4 years. In Toastmasters, I learned a lot about confidence. So how do you take action? You start by taking action and keeping it sustained. Think about, I don't need a show of hands here, how many people had a New Year's resolution on December 31st and on January 1st? How many people are still doing that New Year's resolution on March 28th? You need to differentiate yourself. And that is continue to take the little steps necessary to do what you need to do. And you differentiate yourself by taking these actions. Small steps. When I drive to work, it takes 30 minutes to get there. When there's a commercial on, I turn the radio off. A couple minutes at a time. In that 7 minutes, it's at least, or in that 30 minutes, there's at least 7 minutes of commercials. Up to work, back to work. I'm improving my communication skills 14 minutes more than most of this country. Little steps. During that time, I practice my speeches, or I'll practice a conversation or a role play I want to have with my manager or a peer, or a difficult conversation that could potentially come up. All are actions to improve myself. Think about how your time is spent. I've talked to people that spend 3 or 4 hours on Facebook or LinkedIn. What I would say is, if you spend an hour on Facebook, say I'm going to spend 50 minutes on Facebook today and spend 10 minutes on improving yourself. Look at the time wasters that are out there and reevaluate. Can you grab a couple minutes from that? If you set your goals too high, you're not going to get there. If you set them in small steps, when you start taking those little steps, you're going to improve. Break out of your comfort zone. A lot of us are very comfortable where we are. Get your friends, family, and colleagues involved in working on your own communication skills or public speaking skills. When I joined Toastmasters It took almost 2 years before I practiced my first speech in front of my wife. I was on my way out the door to a speech competition in Canada, where the winner would become a world semi-finalist and be in the top 81 in the world. I wrote a 7-minute speech about my dog Kevin and rescuing animals. I was so nervous, I did the speech in 5 minutes. There's a line in there that says millions of dogs and cats. I was so tongue-tied. I said millions of dogs and a cat. My wife couldn't stop laughing. She knew it was a one-time gaffe and knew the effort I put to get to that point. And I knew if I could do it in front of her, I could do it in front of anyone. My family's been there to provide me the feedback I needed to hear and provide me the support to move forward. My communication skills and my increase in confidence level and my subsequent success grew exponentially when I involved family, friends, and colleagues in my learning process. Again, taking actions. So in another speech competition, I was the lucky contestant to have a jackhammer going off behind him. I was thrown. Years before, I probably would have screamed foul. Instead, I went home and I changed my practice routines. I now encourage distractions. I practice my speeches when my children are playing the piano or the trombone or the xylophone. I invite the dog into the room so I can step over him and speak over his howling. It helps with your focus and concentration. I'm even a little less bashful. I practice my speech in front of my dental hygienist while in the waiting room. All are actions to improve myself. Some other actions you may want to take is find a mentor. My mentor has been to the world semifinals twice and has actually won once. Has been in the top 9 in the world. He's helped me with my confidence and pushing me outside of my comfort level. Become a mentor. When you're working on your own skills such as communication, you'll refine yourself more as a mentor than you will be as a mentee, because you're going to be concentrating on yourself so you can impress your mentor. Do a little bit of networking. Prior to joining Toastmasters, I would have never had the confidence to network with someone I had no idea who they were. Yet it paid dividends for me. A couple months ago, economics, 3 positions, all coming into one. I didn't get the job. Less than 3 hours later, I got a call from someone I'd been networking with. And she said, "Hey, Tom," not knowing I didn't get that job, "I have an opening. Can you come over?" "Yes." She called me back the next day and said, "You can't have it." Because 3 other people you had been networking with found out you're available. Here are the 4 positions. Put them in the order in which you want them, and they're yours, in that order. Because of my confidence level to do something I would have never dreamed of doing before. The last action I'll share with you is I'm not funny. Just ask my wife. I can't remember a story, I can't remember a joke, I can't remember an anecdote. I am just horrible in remembering things. Keep a notebook and a folder. You're sitting around the Thanksgiving table and your family is sharing stories. My wife is so much funnier than I am, so I'll take her stories and I'll put them in the folder in the notebook. You can use those for a variety of messages you want to send. Your messages will be remembered by the audience because of their attachment to a story. And you can use those stories based off of the messages you want to send. Let's go back to the 9-year-old. What are some of the messages that can be there? Be more clear and concise. Or, if you remember the teacher, set clear expectations. But you can use these stories within the folders and notebooks to have your stories come alive. Let them germinate in that folder and then pull them out and use them for whatever you feel is necessary. Due to time constraints, I'm not going to be able to go over all the information that's on that sheet in front of you, but I do want to share with you, when it comes to public speaking, your mind, your mental game is going to play tricks on the physical aspects. So there are some tips and techniques on how you can prepare mentally and physically when it comes to public speaking. Again, I want you to walk away from today that effective public speaking is more than just standing in front of people. It is everywhere. It is more about confidence than it is about communication. It's not as hard as you think. Start taking the actions on yourself a little bit at a time and understand that public speaking and communication is a learned skill that needs to constantly be honed and refined. And finally, your leadership success is directly correlated to your ability to communicate effectively. I'm going to end with an anonymous quote. A person who is successful has simply formed the habit of doing things that unsuccessful people will not do. Take the actions to build your confidence and to build your communication reputation. Thank you.